Darren was a standout, not just among his classmates, but within his entire high school. Junior year, varsity athlete, straight A student, and already scouted by colleges for football scholarships. His friends admired him, coaches trusted him, and teachers praised him. At just 17, he had carved out an identity many envied. Driven, disciplined, destined for something big. But at home, things were complicated. Darren lived in a spacious two-story suburban house with his mother and stepfather, both of whom held high-paying jobs. On paper, it was the kind of household most teens would dream of. The cars in the driveway sparkled. Vacations were frequent. The cabinets were always stocked with name-brand everything. His parents loved to brag about their success, but they had an odd way of showing love to Darren. They never came to his games, never asked about his grades, never said, "We're proud of you." Every weekend, they disappeared to the casino for their ritual, thousands spent in a blur of cards and cocktails. Darren had learned early on to cook for himself, do his own laundry, and keep to his room. The house was luxurious, but it didn't feel like home. There had once been someone who made it feel that way, his older brother, Marcus. But Marcus had left 3 years ago after a storm of arguments Darren was never fully told about. The final blow had come when Marcus married a woman of a different race. Their mother didn't hide her disapproval. When the wedding invitation was declined, Marcus cut ties entirely. Now it was just Darren, the silence of his room, and the slow ticking of a future he hoped to run toward, until the night his knee buckled on the field. A clean tackle, a sharp twist, and then pain. Searing, white-hot, unrelenting pain. The team doctor's face had gone pale. A CL, torn. He'd need surgery. Fast. As Darren lay in the ER that night, clutching his knee, the only thing he feared more than the injury was going home. The MRI results came back quicker than expected. The doctor's face was kind, but unreadable, trained, perhaps, to deliver heavy news with a cushion of calm. Torn ACL, he said. Complete rupture. He'll need reconstructive surgery, and the sooner, the better. Darren sat stiffly on the edge of the examination table, leg-wrapped, heart pounding. Surgery? That word hit like a second injury. "How long until I'm back on the field?" he asked, already fearing the answer. "With surgery and rehab, 9 to 12 months, depending on recovery. But if we don't operate..." The doctor trailed off, exchanging a glance with the physical therapist beside him. Well, long-term mobility could be compromised. He might never run like he used to. The room went quiet. When Darren's parents arrived, 45 minutes late, smelling faintly of cigarette smoke and slot machine air, they didn't ask questions, didn't even make eye contact with the doctor. Instead, his mother leaned against the wall, arms crossed, her tone sharp and skeptical. "Surgery? That's a bit dramatic, isn't it?" she snapped. "It's not dramatic," the doctor replied calmly. "It's medically necessary, especially for athletes. If he wants a full recovery, surgery is the standard protocol." His stepfather chimed in. "What about physical therapy? That's what insurance covers, right? Can't he just do that for a while and see how it goes?" "No," the doctor said, firmer this time. "Physical therapy alone won't repair a torn ACL. It's like trying to glue 2 snapped wires and hoping they carry electricity." But his mother had stopped listening. "I told him this would happen. Sports are a waste. We work hard to give him a good education, and all he wants to do is throw balls." Darren's face flushed with heat, not from the pain in his leg, but from the sting of humiliation. The nurse quietly stepped out of the room, as if she could sense the walls closing in. "What will it cost?" his stepfather finally asked. "Roughly $35,000 without insurance," the doctor said. "Even with coverage, out of pocket, could be significant. But if you have a good plan, we're not paying 35 grand for a knee, his mother cut in, loud and final. That was it. A sentence. A verdict. A future rewritten. In the silence that followed, Darren stared down at his bandaged leg, realizing with a jolt they weren't going to help him. They could, but they wouldn't. And in that moment, something inside him shifted. Not just his ACL, but the unspoken belief that parents always protect their children, no matter what. He was wrong. That night, alone in his room with the lights off and ice melting over his knee, he did something he hadn't done in over a year. He picked up the phone and dialed a number he had memorized, but never dared to call. It rang once, twice. Then, "Hello?" came a voice. It was Marcus. "Darren?" Marcus's voice came through the line, cautious but not cold. "You okay?" For a second, Darren couldn't speak. His throat tightened. It had been nearly 3 years since they last talked. 3 years since the wedding, the one their mother boycotted, calling it a mistake because Marcus had dared to love someone who didn't fit into her narrow vision of family. Darren hadn't said much back then. He was just 14. Too young to take sides, but old enough to feel the tension that cracked through the house like thunder. Now, he didn't have time for guilt. He needed help. "I tore my ACL," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Doctor says I need surgery. Mom and Jim, they won't pay for it." A pause. "Are you serious?" Marcus asked. "They said physical therapy is enough, that sports are stupid. They won't even talk about it." Darren added, quieter now, "They don't care." There was no reply at first, just the sound of breathing on the other end. And then Marcus spoke, not with surprise, but with something closer to heartbreak. "I'll be there tomorrow." Marcus lived 2 hours away, but by the time the morning sun crept through Darren's blinds, a familiar knock hit the front door. Darren's heart pounded. He hadn't seen Marcus since the family explosion that sent him away, since the night their mother called him a disgrace and threw his wedding invitation in the trash. When Darren opened the door, Marcus stood on the porch with his wife, Layla. She gave Darren a soft, reassuring smile. It felt like a warmth he hadn't known in years. Inside the house, chaos followed quickly. "What are you doing here?" their mother barked, arms folded, already red-faced. "I came to talk about Darren," Marcus replied, calm but firm. "He needs surgery." "That's not your business anymore," she snapped. "You made that clear when you walked out." "I walked out," Marcus said, "because I wasn't going to let you insult my wife and pretend it was just a difference of opinion." "This is still my house," she said, voice rising, "and that boy still lives under my roof. Don't think you're going to waltz in and fix things just because you think you're some hero now." Darren stood frozen behind Marcus. His leg throbbed, his chest burned. Marcus turned to him. "Do you want to come with us?" Darren didn't answer with words. He just nodded. By nightfall, his bag was packed. And for the first time in years, Marcus's car pulled out of the driveway not alone, but with Darren in the back seat, staring out the window as the house disappeared into the distance. He didn't know what would happen next, but he knew one thing: someone had finally chosen him. Marcus hadn't planned on taking in his younger brother. He and Layla were already stretched thin. New mortgage, 2 jobs, and caring for Layla's younger sister who was finishing high school. They'd barely caught their financial breath after the wedding drama, let alone planned for a $35,000 surgery. But none of that mattered when Darren limped into their living room. The doctor they consulted confirmed what the first had said. Surgery wasn't optional. If he ever wants to run, play, or live without pain, we need to operate. Sooner is better. Marcus didn't hesitate. He emptied the savings they had quietly built over years. The emergency fund, the down payment buffer, the vacation fund they had promised themselves. all gone with one wire transfer to the hospital. "Are you sure?" Layla had asked, her voice tender, her worry obvious. Marcus kissed her forehead. "He's my brother. They won't help him. That makes it our responsibility now." The day of the surgery, Marcus took off work, sat beside Darren from check-in to anesthesia. It was a long, anxious wait. Longer still, because the silence between them was filled with everything they hadn't said in 3 years. "I'm sorry," Darren finally said, his voice hoarse with emotion, "for not standing up for you, for Layla. I was scared." Marcus looked at him, eyes softening. "You were a kid. You were surviving in a house where silence was safer than truth. I get it." Darren nodded, tears pressing behind his eyes. "Thank you for coming back." The moment was fragile, healing, much like his knee. The surgery went well. The doctors were optimistic. But when Darren opened his eyes in the recovery room, the first face he saw wasn't his mother's. It was Layla's, holding his hand, brushing back his hair, whispering, "You did great." For weeks afterward, their apartment transformed. Layla cooked low-sodium meals. Marcus adjusted his work hours to drive Darren to rehab. They rearranged the living room to make space for his recovery cot. Every small thing spoke loudly. "You matter here." And yet, even as he healed, the wounds from his past remained raw. 3 weeks after the operation, a certified letter arrived from his mother. Marcus opened it first. It was brief, cold. "Since Darren has chosen to live with you, we are relinquishing all financial and legal responsibility for him. He is no longer welcome in this household." That was it. No signature, no emotion, no goodbye. Darren didn't cry when Marcus read it out loud. He just nodded, then looked down at his brace-covered leg and whispered, "I guess this makes it official." Marcus put the letter down. "Let her have her final word. We're writing something better." And in that moment, they weren't just brothers anymore. They were survivors of the same storm, building something stronger in its wake. Physical therapy was brutal. Each session pushed Darren to his limits. Ice packs, tears, and countless repetitions that made his leg feel like it was on fire. But he didn't complain. Not once. Because for the first time in his life, someone had sacrificed for him, and he wasn't going to waste it. Marcus drove him to every session, even when it meant being late to work or pulling double shifts. Layla brought homework from the school Darren was now transferring into, folding it neatly into plastic folders and organizing it by subject. They weren't just helping him recover. They were helping him restart. The apartment felt tight with everyone under one roof, but it also pulsed with something new: care. Layla's sister helped Darren study for exams. Marcus taught him how to change the oil in the car. They watched movies on Friday nights, ordered cheap pizza, and laughed louder than Darren ever remembered hearing in that cold stone house he'd left behind. But there were moments of pain, too. Unexpected ones. Like the time Darren received a postcard from his old school listing football tryouts for next season. He stared at it for a long time, then quietly slid it into the trash. Or when a teammate messaged him on social media, "Heard about your knee? Sucks, man. You coming back?" He didn't know how to answer. Because the truth was, his future still hung in limbo. The doctors said recovery looked promising, but college recruiters had already moved on. Scholarships that once seemed certain now felt like memories from another life. One night, as Marcus and Darren sat quietly on the balcony, sipping warm tea against the cool night air, Marcus asked the question he'd been holding back. "What do you want to do next?" Darren shrugged. "I don't know. I feel like I had a plan, and now it's just gone." Marcus nodded. "Plans change. Life throws you off course. but you've got something a lot of people don't. What? A second chance? Darren looked at him. To do what? To become someone stronger than the people who failed you. The next morning, Darren did something unexpected. He asked Layla for help applying to a local pre-college summer program in kinesiology. I want to learn what the doctors and therapists know, he said, so I can help kids like me, kids who get hurt and feel forgotten. Layla smiled wide. That's a good plan. It wasn't the dream he had started with, but it was his dream now. And it had been built, not with the help of the parents who should have shown up, but with the love of those who chose to. It was a Saturday morning when Darren received the message. His old coach, Mr. Owens, had heard about everything, through whispers at school, murmurs from players, and one honest conversation with the school nurse who had seen the damage firsthand. The email was short, typed in all lowercase like the coach always did. Heard about your surgery. Proud of you for pushing through. If you're up for it, stop by practice. The guys would love to see you. Darren stared at it for a long time. Then he shut the laptop and went for a walk. He didn't go to practice. Not yet. Weeks passed. His leg got stronger. So did his sense of purpose. He was accepted into the summer kinesiology program. Marcus and Layla bought him a second-hand laptop with the last bit of their tax return. It wasn't flashy, but it ran, and that's all he needed. He spent his afternoons shadowing the same physical therapist who had guided his recovery, taking notes, asking questions, learning how pain moved through the human body and how hope helped stitch it back together. It wasn't the future he had once pictured under stadium lights, but it was real. It was useful, and it was something no one could take from him. Then, one night, as they all sat at the dinner table, eating spaghetti off mismatched plates, Layla handed Marcus a folder. "It's time," she said gently. Marcus opened it. Inside, paperwork, legal guardianship forms. They'd been hesitant to bring it up. Marcus had wanted Darren to settle in first, let him feel like family before asking him to make it official. But Darren had already made up his mind. "I want to stay here," he said. "For good." Marcus blinked. "You sure?" Darren nodded. "I didn't lose a family. I found one." That weekend, they went to the courthouse. It wasn't a grand ceremony. No balloons, no crowd. Just 3 people in a room, signing papers, sealing something that had already been real long before it was legal. Afterward, Marcus took a photo of Darren holding the stamped documents, grinning from ear to ear. Layla uploaded it to her private account with the caption, "Some families are built by blood. Others are built by choice. We're proud of ours." But miles away, the house Darren once called home remained quiet, cold. His parents hadn't called, hadn't written, not even a text to ask how he was doing. And by now, that silence wasn't painful. It was peaceful. Because Darren had learned something powerful. Being chosen means more than being born into. And family, at its core, is who shows up when it matters. It had been nearly a year since the surgery when Darren got the news. His high school was holding its annual senior recognition ceremony. He hadn't planned on going. Too many old faces, too many memories. But Coach Owens called him personally. "You're being honored," he said. "Academic excellence, athletic perseverance, all of it. You deserve to be there." Darren hesitated, then nodded. "I'll come." He didn't tell Marcus or Layla about the award. He just asked if they could drive him back to town that night. They didn't ask questions, just said yes, like they always did. When they pulled up to the school, the parking lot was already full. Students in gowns, parents with flowers, the buzz of cameras and flashbulbs. Darren moved through the crowd quietly, unnoticed at first, until Coach Owens spotted him and called his name over the mic. The gym fell quiet. Heads turned. "This young man," Coach began, was told he wouldn't make it back, told his future was gone, told by the people closest to him that he wasn't worth the investment. But he fought harder than I've ever seen, and he proved all of them wrong. Darren stepped forward, a plaque in his hands, his name in bold letters. There was polite applause, but in the back of the room, a small group stood up, clapping harder than anyone else. Marcus, Layla's little sister, a family. After the ceremony, Darren moved through the hall slowly. A few classmates came up, some teachers, old teammates with quiet nods. But he froze when he saw them, his mother and stepfather, standing near the exit, stiff, arms crossed. He hadn't expected them. "Nice speech," his mother said. "Didn't think you'd milk this whole injury thing for so long." Darren didn't reply. His stepfather spoke next. "We heard about the guardianship. That was dramatic." Still, Darren said nothing. "I hope you're proud of yourself," his mother added, her voice flat. "Living off your brother like a charity case." Darren finally looked at her, looked through her, then said, "I am proud." She blinked. "Not because of the award," he added, "because I learned what real love looks like. And it wasn't from you." He turned and walked away. Not fast, not angry, just done. As he stepped back outside, Marcus opened the car door for him. No words were needed. They drove home in silence, windows cracked, the wind humming through the night. In the back seat, Darren closed his eyes and leaned his head against the glass, not thinking about what he lost, only what he found.